So we're just going to make it start now. Hopefully everyone who is joining has joined. My name's Ashley. I'm the Northern Ireland Early Careers Chair this year. And I just want to thank you all very much for coming to our last Early Careers event of the year. We've had really great turnout this year, so thank you very much. For today's event, we've got two different speakers, one on health and safety and then one on the career of a CIWEM branch chair. Before we get on to the speakers, I've just got a wee bit of housekeeping to get through. Michelle, could you go on to the next slide, please? So this webinar is going to be recorded and put online, so just so that everyone's aware of that. And then there's a link to where you'll find past recordings in case you're interested in going back through the archives. And then, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, there is a chat button and a QA button. So if you could use the QA button for any questions you have for the speakers, and we're going to do both of our talks first and then do questions at the very end. And then the chat function, if you could use it for any technical difficulties. So there's someone from HQ on the call who's monitoring the chat and should be able to help out with any IT issues. And then just to let you know that this webinar will count for about an hour and a half worth of CPD. Yes. And then we just have two slides on CIWEM in case anyone here's at their first webinar. And if you are, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. So CIWEM's a royal chartered professional body and an independent charity. So we've just got a few links here for the website and membership. And then my last slide here just shows that we're a recognised body around the world and that you'll be able to take your membership with you anywhere and join kind of a global community with CIWEM. So that's me for the startup. So I'll pass over to our first speaker, Michelle, who is the current chair of the CIWEM NI branch.
Michelle, I don't think we can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay, so I was just saying how embarrassing it was. Sorry, can you hear me now? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ashley, for inviting me to do this. But I'm a wee bit embarrassed to actually doing this, talking about myself. It's not something I'm very good at. So, if you know the office, you'll know what this is about. Yep. Um, it's very. I'm very privileged and quite humble to be asked to do this, but it's not something I normally do. So please bear with me. Um, so I'm the current chairperson of the Northern Ireland branch. So how it works in our branch, the people in the committee work together. We're a really, really great branch, and sorry, I'm not sure why that moved on. We're a really great branch, and someone asked me would I like to be chairperson a couple of years back. I agreed. Couldn't believe that I'd been asked. And was like, yes, okay. And then when I came up to my year in charge, I decided to choose the theme of Northern Ireland, our water, our environment, our place, because we are a wee bit weird over here, a wee bit unique. We've got our own wee things going on with our own politics, our own borders, our own different geographic area. And with that comes all the different challenges for the environment. So it's important that we recognise that and celebrate what we're good at as well. So there's a couple of wee things that I've done so far. That's presenting the Queen's certificate at the summer graduations, and that's the first day that I got my lovely chain. So job roles. This is just a quick overview of what I've done, but I will go into detail in a wee second. So my career's been a bit random. I've been a temp for quite a lot of my career. That's down to a number of things: politics, governments, budget cuts. I've been a temp across lots of different jobs. I've been in a fisheries roles. I have been in project management roles, I have been in infrastructure roles, but realistically, my main focus of my career has actually been in environmental regulation. So I would I personally think that's my personal skill set, and I think that's what I'm good at. So my life and my career from 2004 to 2009, I'm really sorry that you'd have to go through this and listening to me, but this is how it went. So I had a wee baby in 2004, our Matthew. He's now 21. And during my time off after having him, I was looking for jobs, didn't know what to do. I had finished school. I had a couple of rubbish A levels, didn't really do very well at school. And a 51-week job opportunity came up working for, at the time, was known as DARD, which was the Department of Agriculture. It became AFBI during my time there, so it was a 51-week contract. I didn't know what I was going to do. Turned up on my first day in a suit and pair of heels because I thought I'd be working in an office. However, I wasn't. And my whole life, I've been really into the environment, really into science. I was the kid in P6 who had a microscope and a chemistry set. You know, that was me. So when I turned up and they brought me down to the side of the River Lagan in my high heels and help them with, they had a fish trap in the fish pass for the salmon that go up through the fish pass. The guy who actually worked for, well, I'll have a slide on him in a minute. He said on the first day he didn't know what I was going to be like because I did turn up dressed for an office. So he just challenged me, threw me into the deep end that day. So after that, I was obviously dressed more appropriately for work. It's 51 weeks of great job, and I really enjoyed it. It was a temporary post because back in the days when you're temporary, after 51 weeks, you get rights, you see, for working in jobs. So they used to get rid of you at that stage. During my time at AFBI, they encouraged me to go back to school. And I did. I went back to school and did my HND in applied biology at Belfast Met. And the two lecturers there in the photograph are Hugo and Dawn, who were just unbelievably supportive of me. And it's my friend Stacey as well. And she also was like myself, who had a wee baby, and we both went on and had careers. So Belfast Met was the place to be. I think I probably should have went there instead of doing A levels at school in hindsight. But at the time, people were like, oh, you can't go to the techs where people go to be doctors. That is not what higher education is about anymore, and I think that's important that this should be recognised. Our colleges across this country are absolutely phenomenal, and they throw out some of the best people, especially when it comes to doing HNDs, because I did my HND. During my time in my HND, I also had a temporary job as a scientific officer in the Northern Ireland Environment Agency's Trace Organics Labs. I got that as like a summer contract, and I worked for a guy called Les Smith. He was a chemist, and he was a fantastic chemist. He used to say, I'll make a chemist out of you yet. And he was raging when I went and did a zoology degree in the end, but Les was very, very, very accommodating to me. My HND wasn't full time, as in, you know, I was in 2 days, 1 day full day, and then a couple of days I was in, you know, an hour here or 2 hours there for classes. So he let me work my hours around my studies. And that was the most supportive thing I've ever had. He also helped when it came to doing different modules, you know, on the different types of things that I did in my degrees, you know, like lab techniques and stuff like that. He was brilliant. I got a permanent job at the end of my HND through the normal competitions. It was my first ever permanent job, and it was working in AFBI in the virology labs up in BSD in Stormont. I did 3 months in the summer. It was doing ELISAs all day long. So if anybody knows what an ELISA is, you're taking a pipette of chicken blood, it was in this case, and testing for the different, so basically all your birds across, you hear about bird flu all the time. All the birds in all the flocks across this country are vaccinated for various different things to keep them safe and to keep the food chain safe. And they have to be tested on a regular basis. So the birds get bled regularly to see what sort of level of the vaccines they have and stuff in them. We had to test those, and that was part of the job that I did. I did 3 months of that, and I didn't like it. And I'd been offered a place in Queen's. They allowed me straight into second year of a zoology course after finishing my HND, so I didn't have to do first year. So I left my permanent job, despite everyone's shock, and went back to study. So this is Derek Evans. He was my mentor in AFBI. He was absolutely fantastic at like challenging me. He threw me in at the deep end. He taught me how to do lots of different things. So up in the top here, these are Anguilla crassus. These are parasites that live in our European eels that have come across from the Japanese eels, and they are in the swim bladders. We don't actually know if they impact the whole survival. There's loads of different stuff. These are glass eels. These are my favorite kind of eels. They're completely see-through. They're toady. They come in big batches like that across from the Sargasso Sea. Eels are really fascinating and important. And when I worked in this team, they challenged me. They put me through. I went to a parasitology conference and presented a poster. I hadn't even got a degree at this stage, and they continued to support me after I finished my degree. When I went and done my degree, Derek got me samples for my master's, or for my dissertation, sorry, and I presented that in another fisheries conference. You know, he's always been very supportive, and he actually provided one of my fantastic speakers at this year's conference, and one of his PhD students, Greg McGoobry, who, you know, he's just brilliant. And without Derek coming along and supporting me and mentoring me, I don't think I would have went back to school. I probably would have worked in a clothes shop. Who knows? So 2010, 2011 was my degree. There was a few nights in the Globe, or wherever it would have been at that time, the Parlour. And I graduated in 2011 with my degree. I was a temporary pollution prevention scientific officer at this point, and I also got married in 2012, and I had a wee baby in 2013, and then I was unemployed. I didn't have a job. World doesn't come to an end when you're unemployed. It just changes. So if this happens to you throughout your career, do not worry. It's not the end of the world. It just means you need to refocus. So I had a little baby, and he was 3 months old, so I went back to work because the job came up in NI Water. It was one of the girls I used to work with in the NIEA labs back in the previous slide. And she said to me, "We have this post, it's out. I know you're looking at a job. Do you want to come?" And I said, okay. And when I got into the NI Water Clean Water labs, I worked there for 3 months, and then a job came up in the trade effluent team, a permanent job, and I got that job, and it was fantastic. It was a great job. I really, really enjoyed that post. Another wee baby in 2015, and I had maternity leave for 6 months. So I'm not really very good at maternity leave. Some people like to take a year off and spend all this time. I personally find that challenging and like to be back in work and getting on with like my career. And I love my children, do not get me wrong, but you know, if anyone feels like pressure to taking time off if they do have children, you know, don't feel that has to be the way. Just make sure that you do what's right for you. So 2016, I was promoted to Trade Effluent Area Manager, and then I moved into the infrastructure planning team in 2017 to 2019. So that was a really random job. So it was a sideways move in NI Water. So I've been in trade effluent for a number of years, and really enjoyed it. But this post came up, it was something different, and I wanted a new challenge. So it was working in a more engineering based role. And as I wasn't an engineer, some of that was challenging. I was really, really well supported by people I'd worked with in the operational side in trade effluent. Desi Collins and the, you know, all the other operational guys, Clive Rainey, everybody, you know, they were able to help me when it came to doing things. I also had Alan Moore, who I think he's still there. I'm not sure if he's retired yet, but Alan was legendary. Alan didn't know how to take me, I think, at the start, coming in there again in my suit. And they were all engineers, all had been from the industrial side right the way through. And there's me coming in, random person, full of environmental stuff, absolutely no idea what I was talking about. And they had to teach me things. So he taught me about water mains, taught me about engineering, taught me about how to read an engineering drawing, things like that that were really basic. But that post was really, really influential on me. It gave me a wider view of NI Water in terms of the strategic nature of the post, and what it actually meant. My environmental background from the trade effluent side fed right into that. So that allowed me to I think, do the job quite well. But I wasn't fully fulfilled in the post. So I took up a really random couple of things. So I joined the CIWEM committee in 2018. Angela Halpenny was very influential again. She was chair at that point, and she said to me to come along and get involved. And I did my chartership, and I became a part-time lecturer in the Belfast Met. It's always something I wanted to do, and I really enjoyed doing that. And then in 2019, I left NI Water and went back to NIEA. A post came up in NIEA in the scientific officer side. And then COVID hit. So COVID was obviously to 2020. So chartership, I'm going to talk about chartership for a wee minute because I know a lot of people on this call will probably be interested in this part. I missed 3 submission deadlines. I had it in my own head that I wasn't good enough to be chartered. And I had been in my career for quite a number of years at this stage. I was really nervous. I only applied for the one criteria. I should have applied for C.Sci. I should have applied for C.Env. And I still need to go back and do those. I haven't done it yet. It took me 2 bottles of wine before I hit the submit button. It was sitting ready for so many times. Just didn't do it. But it was really just, it was very much something that you see as, oh my God, you aspire to it. Angela was, and still as the head of environmental regulation in NI Water, she was somebody you aspired to be like. And she was chartered. You did people across NI Water who were all chartered engineers. They were always well, thought of and very well to do and really high up. So I was like, how could I possibly get this? But I did. I managed it in the first attempt, so I must have done something right. If you're doing it, stick it in. Doesn't matter if you don't get through. CIWEM are a very supportive organisation, and of course, if you have any queries or anything like that, come to our committee. We will help you. Gareth Coughlin is on our committee, and he is just unbelievable. He has been somebody who does the chartership interviews for years, and he sat with me and helped me feel more confident getting into the interview and know what I was expecting to do. And we also run these events. So we had one not that long ago, which Ashley and the team ran, and it was, again, brilliant. So please don't ever be thinking you're not good enough. And if you don't get it the first time, you'll learn and you'll get something from the next time. So then 2021 to 2025 was a wee bit busy again. So I was in NEA during COVID, doing development management, all looking at planning applications as they came through the Environment Agency, making sure that what people were planning to build wasn't going to have a negative impact on the environment, and any mitigations that they were planning were going to be appropriate. Then a post came up in Brexit. There was lots of posts in Brexit around this time. This one came up and it was operational readiness, and I fancied it because it was something I thought I would be good at. It was all about change management, all about getting operationally ready on the ground, working with the stakeholders, working with people who were running the sites, and making sure that the sites were fit for purpose. So I applied and I was successful in this temporary promotion, and I got through, and it was fantastic. It was a great job. We actually got seconded into DEFRA to do this, which was another experience doing bits and pieces in another organisation. And we built some really fantastic infrastructure in a really very, very quick time. In the middle of all that, there's me up at the top, attached to a drip, as I normally am when I'm pregnant. I get hyperemesis like Princess Kate. It's my princessness in me, but I got really unwell with my pregnancy with my daughter Sarah, and then I moved back into. I went off, took 4 months maternity leave with her, and went back to DEFRA for another couple of months. But then the post came up that I'm in currently in the summer of 2024, and that was for the Water Pollution Response and Enforcement team. And I've been in there ever since. So that's back to what I started doing in terms of pollution prevention, in terms of trying to protect the environment and regulate. So CIWEM Chair 2025-26. Delighted to be here, absolutely delighted. I have really, really good support from my committee and from the people who are involved throughout my career, my peers, my colleagues, anybody I've worked with. I'm really loving working with the Early Careers branch, so thank you very much for having me on here. It's been, they're so energetic, enthusiastic. The younger members of our committee are really going to be the future of CIWEM's committee in Northern Ireland. Is very promising, so that's what I'm saying. I know you probably are thinking, maybe if you're on this call, CIWEM Chair might be something that's on the long finger for you, but if I can do it, you can do it. And that's the truth. So if you can do it, get involved, put your heads in and go for it. So the year so far, I've had prize given for Queen's, annual conference Lough Neagh, technical talks and in-person events. Early Careers branch, they've done so many good events this year, and I've been delighted to be involved in those. I was at the ICE dinner recently. That this is something for the ladies out there or anybody who doesn't want to wear a suit. If you do become chair, the chain is a really big issue into what you wear for your dress for any of these fancy dinners. It took me quite a lot of opportunities. I think I'd ordered 8 dresses before I found the right neckline, but I got there in the end. The CIWEM Presidential Awards were on Monday, and I'm delighted to say that our branch were shortlisted for 3 awards, highly commended for 1, and we won 1 as well. So congratulations to Paddy Brow, who won the Innovation Award, to Claire Vincent, who was shortlisted for the Long Service Award, and to Ashley Johnson. No, it's Ashley Johnson's on the call. Ashley Brown, sorry, there's 2 Ashleys. It's always difficult to remember which one, who was highly commended in the Early Careers. So it was a fantastic wee day, and I'm delighted to be involved in that. So just to finish up there, my career is a bit random. I really randomly end up where I am, and I don't know how I got there, but everything happens for a reason, in the words of my wee granny. So get your head down, reach out to everybody around you. I've got supporters and champions throughout here, family, friends, all my committee, all my colleagues. It's been a really, really great career so far, and I can't wait to continue going on with it. And I'm absolutely delighted to be here. So if you have any questions on how to get there, or if you're having a struggle or you need a mentor, please reach out. I would happily mentor anybody. And thank you very much.
Brilliant, Michelle. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We're just going to take any questions for Michelle at the end. So we're just going to move on to our next speaker now. Our next speaker is Charlene Meek, who has 20 years experience in health and safety and currently works for McAdam Design. So I'll pass over to Charlene now.
Okay, thank you very much, Ashley. Michelle, I don't know how I'm going to follow that, but it might be death by PowerPoint for myself. So I'm going to turn my camera off because I'm working off 3 screens, and you'll only see the side of my head. So I'll start sharing my screen and we'll get ready. Screen share, anybody?
Yep, you can see it.
Hold on a second. It's just not worked the way that I wanted it to, and now it won't expand my screen. Right, just going to stop sharing here. Do this again. Sorry about that. I was the one talking about IT difficulties. Screen 3. Okay, there we go. No, that's that us now.
Yep, I can see your screen.
Ashley, perfect. There's no green border this time, so I was wondering. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for attending. As I say, it's going to be a hard thing to follow with Ashley. I'm just going to do a brief introduction on myself. So basically, I have been in the construction industry for 22 years. I began my career with a contractor as a health and safety administrator, and then progressed up through health and safety, doing on-site inspections, health and safety files, getting valuable experience on sites. And then I later moved out of the contractor side and into consultancy. So I trained from the bottom as a CDM coordinator for 5 years. Gaining strength and knowledge in the design stage, risk management, and then regularity compliance. And then I decided that at the time I wanted to grow. I wanted to make sure that I got an all-round experience as health and safety. So I went back to the contractor side. I worked my way up from health and safety officer up to check manager, and then leading teams of safety professionals. So after that, in 2021, I decided to get back into the consultancy sector. I joined McAdams, and I now work as part of this health and safety team, and our main services are principal designer, PSDP, and other health and safety advisory roles. So I do CDM advisor and health and safety advisor as well. And my main client is actually NI Water, so it's good to be on a team here with other NI Water employees or ex-employees. So, and then recently I've been elected as vice chair. I'll not tell you the route that I took, but I joined in March as a committee member, and then I got voted into vice chair role 2 months ago. So I'm vice chair of the Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, which is like CIWEM, only it's a chartered body for health and safety professionals. So why is CDM and chartership important to you? CDM isn't just a set of regulations for health and safety advisors or project managers. It actually applies to all of us. So no matter where we sit in the project, whether you're writing a feasibility report, you're updating a model, you're designing outfall, or you're recommending a pumping strategy, or you could even be managing a construction site in the future, then you're already influencing safety, risk, and design decisions. And here's the key point: as you move into your leadership roles, people will look onto you, not just to do the work, but to make the right decisions. So understanding CDM early in your career accelerates your ability to lead teams, to protect people, and to deliver better environmental outcomes. So the CDM regulations is the Construction Design and Management Regulations, and they're usually called CDM for short. Health and safety, and in our working careers, we love acronyms. So CDM is usually what we call it. It doesn't matter if you're working in the UK, Great Britain, or Northern Ireland. We just we shorten it to CDM. So it's the main legal framework for managing health, safety and risk on construction projects, and they exist because of historic poor safety management. Historically, there was a lot of accidents. So in 1994, the CDM regulations became apparent. They were brought out. People think that they're only recent regulations, but they've actually been out since 1994. Big or small on all construction, and it doesn't matter if you are a commercial project or you are a domestic contract, CDM applies. So in your future, you must consider and remember that even a domestic client falls under CDM regulations. And a domestic client is anybody that's doing work on their own home. So they could be extending or the kitchen, they could be refurbing. It still falls under the construction design and management regulations. So they're there to protect workers. They're there to protect the public. It's to protect the environment and for the long-term users and operators of the asset as well. So CDM duty holders, there are 6 CDM duty holders under the regulations. That is the client, the designer, the principal designer, the principal contractor, the contractor, and the workers. Okay, you could be any one of those in your career, and CIWEM provides early career professionals with access to networks, knowledge, and opportunities that help develop leadership skills. By understanding technical excellence, professional responsibility, and frameworks like CDM, the members can step into roles where they influence projects, they mentor teams, and they shape sustainable and safe environmental outcomes. So in short, being a CIWEM member gives you the tools, the credibility, and the platform to grow into a leader who delivers impact in the sector. So as a future leader, start by asking the key CDM questions early. What hazards are we creating? How can we design them out? And who needs to know, and what information must we pass on? Build a culture of openness by encouraging your teams to challenge unsafe practices. Remove the fear of speaking up and modelling good behaviours through transparent decisions and documenting risk. It's also essential to understand your legal responsibilities, because you will take one of these in your career. You may be a designer, and you may all only be designers, but at the end of the day, that means you still have legal responsibilities, so you do need to know them. And as your career progresses, you may find yourself acting as a designer by default. You could be a principal designer like myself. You could be a client like NI Water. You could represent the client as a project manager, or you could be a lead consultant, but you all have duty holders regardless. So leadership means recognizing these roles and acting competently under them. Finally, use a CDM to improve your sustainability outcomes. Designing out risk often reduces materials, waste, carbon, and cost. In other words, safer design leads to smarter, more sustainable design. The next few slides are very important as you navigate your way through your journey. So the client has overall responsibility for setting the standards, the management of the project, and has a major influence over how the work is carried out. They create the project's scope or the brief. They establish the budget. They determine a realistic program for delivery. They set out the procurement path and the contract requirements. They select the required team, and the project team are the duty holders. So they have the designers, the project manager, the principal designer, the principal contractor, and then dictating formats and processes for the health and safety file or the building manual at the end. So decisions made by the client impact on health, safety and welfare of the workers and others. So that includes the public and the persons who are going to be occupying the building at the end. It's all affected by the work, and that's affected by your design. The main duties of the client include making suitable arrangements through planning, design and construction of the project. They ensure consideration is given to health, safety and welfare of all of those affected. So how to run the project, accounting for any risks to others, including again occupants, adjacent sites even. They appoint the right people at the right time. All responsibilities have to be in writing. So their legal appointments of the principal designer and the principal contractor, where more than one contractor is foreseeable. So it doesn't matter if you're sitting in a project scope with your client and you think that the contractor is only going to have one contractor on it. The chances that contractor is going to take on another contractor for maybe M&E or civil works, that becomes more than one contractor and it's foreseeable. So then a legal appointment has to be made for the principal designer and the principal contractor. They ensure sufficient resources and time are allocated at each stage of the project. They ensure effective mechanisms are in place for communication, cooperation and coordination. So they schedule meetings, they have digital platforms for reporting mechanisms. The information has to be coordinated between the team. So even if they choose that one person disseminates all of that, it could be the project manager, they ensure that that is happening and they make everybody aware. They take reasonable steps to ensure the health and safety performance of the designers, the principal designer and the principal contractor is achieved and compliant. They provide relevant existing pre-construction information. This is where a principal designer gets involved. We help them collate any existing health and safety files, any record drawings, if there's any asbestos survey records, any asbestos management records. We would collate all of that, utility services, searches, and we pass that information on behalf of the client, for the client, to the tendering contractors. They ensure the construction project is notified to the HSE. If it works and it has to be certain criteria that reaches, so to be notified, the project has to last longer than 30 working days and have more than 20 workers at any one time or exceed 500 person days. So that calculation can come down to 50 men working on any site 10 days in a row, then it becomes notified. Okay. They ensure construction phase plan is prepared. They ensure the welfare facilities are in place, and they ensure health and safety filing is prepared. They are not responsible for supplying welfare facilities, but just to ensure that it is in place. And they take on all of their duty holders to help them with that. Okay, so that helps guide them. They don't have a responsibility to make sure that it's done themselves, but they have to ensure that it's done. So as a designer, a lot of you will be designers. You can either be an individual or an organization, but you are someone who prepares or modifies a design for a construction project. That's including temporary works. Or you arrange or instruct any person under their control to do so. So that could be a project manager, okay? The term design includes preparation of drawings, design details, specs and calculations, okay? The list isn't exhaustive, but the majority of us under CDM in construction or in the environmental industry, if we're building something, we're usually under CDM. The designer should also address health and safety from the very start. So you have a strong influence on decisions that can affect those who will construct, use, maintain, clean, refurbish, and eventually demolish your building. Health and safety risks need to be considered alongside other factors that influence design, so cost, function, fitness for purpose, aesthetics, environmental impact, and statutory compliance. So health and safety isn't the deciding factor when it comes to a project. You have to take in cost, time, and resources. Okay, it's recognised that you cannot get zero risk design, and it's understood that residual risk shall remain, but early integrated design interventions can have a positive impact on health and safety performance of the project. Now, that means if you're doing a designer risk management log or a designer risk assessment, that helps you decide at the end of your design stage if there's any residual risks that remain for you to pass on to the contractor who's going to be finally building the project. So your main duties as a designer include making sure the client's aware of their health and safety duties. So first of all, you have to ask, does the client know about their CDM duties? If they don't, then you let them know. And then you advise them of the need to appoint a principal designer if there isn't one already appointed. And these duties are a must and shall under the law. So you have to do these. It's not saying that you have to make them aware yourself, but you have to ensure that it's done, which means a principal designer can do that. You want to consider any potential particular or significant risks. We're going to talk a wee bit about that. A particular risk is a risk that falls under the law. There's 9 particular risks under CDM regulations, and then we have significant risks. Significant risks are ones that are not easily managed by a contractor on site. So far as reasonably practicable, you want to eliminate foreseeable hazards. That means you have to eliminate the hazard where you can, okay? Foreseeably practicable means, again, do you have the cost, the time, and the resources to do that? If you can't eliminate, you must reduce or you control the risk, okay? And you do that through your design process that we mentioned earlier, which is your design risk management log. And then you provide all the further information at the end to your principal designer. They give that to the principal contractor in the pre-construction information pack, and then that allows the contractor to be able to do a construction phase plan, and that's his management arrangements, his health and safety management arrangements, how he's going to build or refurb or survey on site safely. And the other duty that you have is that you must provide all of your information to the principal designer for the health and safety file. Now that's your record drawings, your as-built drawings, your design loading calculations, if you've any floor or ground calculations for weight bearing, residual risks and assumptions that are affecting safe access or maintenance. If you've working at height, you have to be telling your contractor and your end user how are they going to clean or maintain your building that you designed when it's being used. You can't just assume that the contractor's going to figure that out. You have to tell them. So you have to design that in as well. So you're going to be wanting to design and eliminate the risk of falling. That can't be done all the time. So then you can design in the control of that with scaffolding. You can say, okay, you got to use scaffolding here. So you're going to be doing low maintenance. It won't be once a year. We're going to put in plant machinery that's maybe doesn't need to be maintained for 5 years. That reduces the length of time that somebody has to be working at height. And again, if you're working at height and you've designed the area around the working at height for maybe guttering, you have to be looking at the access for any lifting equipment, any cranes, any mutes or scissor lifts that need to go on site. So you are in the fundamental position that you can design out any risk to a contractor before they get to site. It's your duty, it's your responsibility, your legal responsibility. And then you supply that information at the handover stage with your file. So the particular risk we touched upon in the last slide, okay, there is a schedule which is in the CDM regulations, so you have to look at these first before you look at any other construction hazards. You have to look at the risk of burial under earthfalls, engulfment in swampland, or falling from height, okay? So a lot of that would be excavations. Risk from chemical or biological substances. In the water industry, the risk is high, okay? We're going to have gases, leptospirosis, Weil's disease. You're going to have to try to eliminate working within that or introducing chemicals, hypochlorite sodium into your maybe your wastewater treatment work that you're designing. Your legal responsibility is to eliminate that. So you would need to ask the client in the brief, can we do it a better way, a safer way? If the answer is no, then you work around it and you introduce then the general principles of prevention. Okay. Ionizing radiation. A lot of the time this would be a not applicable on projects, but if you're working maybe on a live hospital environment, then ionizing radiation can come into play. High voltage power lines, they're all over Northern Ireland. A risk of drowning if you're working over or near water tanks. We have wells, underground earthworks and tunnels, divers having a system of air supply, caissons and compressed air systems, atmospheres, and then the assembly or dismantling of heavy prefabricated components. That's usually a yes as well. That would be quite relevant in the majority. If you had cladding on your building, if you were building tanks, diameter of pipe, that would all come into assembly or dismantling of heavy prefabricated components. And then the significant risks we touched upon as well. So CDM focuses on those significant risks, which are things that are not likely to be obvious, they're unusual or non-routine, and they're likely to be difficult to manage effectively by a competent contractor. So for instance, if it is an excavation that's 1.5 meters, you don't need to be considering that. That is a normal risk for a contractor. But if you were working at height during steel frame installation, then it becomes significant because the potential consequences are severe. There is a serious risk of injury or fatality. It requires specific planning, coordination, control measures beyond the general site rules. It affects multiple contractors. You've got your steel erectors, your crane operators, your MOOP operators, and it becomes CDM as a significant risk. Okay, so there's a foreseeable chance that the fall from height during the beam placement and the bolting operations, there's that chance of a fall from height the way that it's done. So you need to be, that is a significant risk. Okay, you put that into your design risk management log or your design risk assessment. The lifting operations introduces additional risks such as dropped object, load swings, crane collapse, and then you've got your work interfaces. So you've got ground workers, the following trades that come after that all increases the complexity. Typical control considerations such as sequencing of the steel erection. You need a competent specialist. You need to have proper edge protection, fall arrest systems, exclusion zones. So you can see now how that becomes not a normal risk, but a significant risk. And that's all tied together through the coordination between the principal designer the principal contractor, and the steelwork contractor. So good design risk management, okay, that is done in collaboration with other CDM duty holders. Your duty, one of your duties, is to collaborate with everybody, all the duty holders, okay. You conduct early identification in your DRM logs or your design risk management, design risk assessments. You focus on particular and significant risks, not the normal risks, okay. You discuss lessons learned and risk mitigation through your design, your team meetings and your risk workshops. And I would have briefings as well at the end of a handover. Sit down with your team and collaborate and discuss what went wrong and how did we fix it? How did we improve it? You share and coordinate your relevant information. That's your surveys. Always get GPR surveys done, underground surveys, your site utility searches. All of those are relevant, and also UXO surveys as well come into play. And then conveying residual risk information in simple ways, which could be a register log, drawing notes, or she boxes. Now, I am a big fan of she boxes, and that is your safety, health, and environmental boxes that go onto your drawings. A principal contractor is very rarely going to be looking at a pre-construction information pack on site. He's going to look at your drawings, the best place that you could actually highlight what the hazards are from your design. So if you put what's left, what the residual risks are from your design, onto the drawing that they're going to be working off, it's there, it's straight in front of them. So under CDM, the principal designer, which is my job role, this is what I do at the minute, we must only be appointed if the following criteria exists. If it's foreseeable that there will be more than one contractor involved. We're normally a competent designer with control over the pre-construction design phase. It's preferable that the principal designer is the lead designer, but that's not mandatory. Okay, so in McAdams, we took on the role of principal designer, and we do that as an organisation. We have all of the competencies, the skills and knowledge and experience to be able to say that we are competent at being principal designers. The PD can appoint a competent advisor to assist with the role. So sometimes a contractor will take on the role as principal designer. NI Water will appoint a contractor as principal designer, but they won't have the competency. So they will take McAdam on as a principal designer advisor. All that means is we're just competent advisors to assist them with the role, but there can only be one principal designer on a project. So they must be appointed in writing, and it must remain in place for the concept through to the completion of the project, but can be carried out by different parties at different stages. So the client can terminate your employment, your appointment, and bring it into somebody else. Again, for instance, an ECI project with NI Water, I could be principal designer up until ECI contract award, and then the contractor becomes principal designer because it's a design and build project. And my main duties are to plan, manage, and monitor and coordinate the health and safety during the pre-construction design stage. Now, it says here it includes ongoing design prepared in the construction stage. So if the contractors are on site, I would come in and maintain the pre-construction design if there was temporary works, if it was a design and build, okay? My other duty is identify and eliminate or control foreseeable particular significant risks in design. So we collectively get into teams and we have workshops. We then put that information down into our DRM logs. I help the client to provide all existing asset records, which is the pre-construction information. I ensure designs are compliant with their duties. I'll liaise with everyone to ensure that all relevant pre-construction information has been provided to the principal contractor so that they can create their construction phase plan. And then I prepare the health and safety file at the end. So if I'm maintaining the principal designer role, I will do the health and safety file and submit that to the client at handover. So another duty holder is the principal contractor under CDM. They are appointed, again, if it's foreseeable, there'll be more than one contractor. So the likelihood of that in a construction project is high. They are a competent contractor. They have full control over the construction phase, and they coordinate all of the work that secures health and safety. They must be appointed in writing by the client as early as possible. So before the construction phase, to allow the contractor enough time to be programming, get buildability, get their methodologies in place, do their utility searches and any applications that they need. And the principal contractor is an important role in managing construction risks and providing strong leadership to ensure standards are understood and followed by the subcontractors. So if the client fails to appoint a principal contractor, the client must fulfill the duties by default. The same applies as a principal designer. Their main duties are to plan, manage and monitor and coordinate health and safety during construction stage. They have to do construction phase plans, risk assessments and method statements. They have to supervise. Adequate supervision is a huge thing on construction sites that HSE will constantly be looking for. Inspections and audits, any investigations, and then briefings and toolbox talks, and that's a two-way communication that they're looking for between anybody on site. They have to prepare a construction phase plan. They have to provide suitable site inductions. They have to prevent unauthorised access, okay? And they have to provide suitable welfare facilities. So we touched upon that in the client. The client has to ensure that there's suitable welfare, but the principal contractor has to actually provide it. Now, they could get another contractor in to provide it, as long as they've the evidence to say so, okay? And then they liaise with the principal designer and design changes, anything that's got temporary works in it, and any health and safety file information, because they are the ones building the project. So they have their contractors, their subcontractors, design and build as-built drawings, all information that they have regarding the health and safety of the building, then they'll send to the principal designer for the health and safety file. And they have to consult with workers on their health and safety and welfare, and that goes back to a two-way communication regarding contract briefings, inductions, toolbox talks, and meetings. So getting ready for your chartership, health and safety plays an important role in your chartership journey, okay? Make sure that you familiarise yourself with the competency framework. You make note of your experiences where you applied health and safety at CDM. Keep your professional log on how you applied health and safety and CDM principles. Use clear examples to demonstrate your health and safety awareness, and be ready to discuss your experience in health and safety and CDM applications. And you can have any mentor. There are a lot of health and safety mentors that are out there. So we're all here to help each other. Thanks for listening.
That's brilliant. Thank you. That was great. So we're under our question and answer section now. So please feel free to get your questions into the Q&A box, or like any ones that you see in there that you want answered. But we've got a few in there already. So first one we've got is for Michelle. How would you suggest that new members make the most of opportunities within the branch?
Okay, so I suppose keeping in touch with the branch events, so our CIWEM web page and also our LinkedIn page is very, very good and very active. We keep posting everything about there. But like reach out to those in your employment area. So, there's more than likely going to be somebody. I think Ashley's managed to get somebody from every employer involved in the early career side. So find out who that person is where you work, and they'll keep you posted. I know in my place of work, we try and circulate the emails to say, join into the events, but just getting involved as much as possible. So our next sort of good event that we have coming up will be our quiz for that sort of thing. So there's a quiz in January, and I'd encourage everybody to go. It's speed quizzing too. So for early careers people, you'll probably be better at it than old people like me. So yeah, that's I did win it before COVID. That was one of the photos I did have up on my screen, and I will try and reconcile that team again. But no, I think getting involved is really, really important. So logging in to see CIWEM in general, our branch is very, very active. So getting involved as much as you can, coming along to any technical talks or events. And if you have something you want to get involved in terms of you want to do a bit of presentation on your work area, please shout. We are always open for that. So please give us a wee call. Thank you. Hope it answers your question.
And if you want to get in touch with the Early Careers branch, my email should have been associated with this event. So happy if you want to drop me an email about any events coming up. So we've got another 2 questions here, and they're both for Charlene. So has there been a challenge or difficulty that you faced in your health and safety role, and how did you overcome it, or what was the main lesson learned? So that sounds like someone wants an example.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges in health and safety, to be honest. Not so much now on the consultancy side, but on the contractor side, definitely over the last 22 years. The biggest challenge has been the changes on site. People are set in their ways and maybe don't listen to you because they've never had an accident before. But the most recent one that I came across, which was quite a strange one, I was doing a site inspection, and the the site manager I was walking around with the site manager, and he had previously had two other external site inspections that had glowing references. And then I came on the site and it took a sharp nosedive. And he then approached me at the end and said, listen, could you be a wee bit lenient on the report, on what you're going to say? Because it looks like we were doing so well. And then all of a sudden we've kind of taken a nosedive in health and safety. And it was a bit awkward because someone was asking me to go against what my professional job is, and my moral code, and also ethical as well at the end of the day. So basically I just explained to him that the other people that had been on site to do inspections were not health and safety. They would not have the same skills, knowledge, and experience that I would have when it comes to health and safety inspections. And I've been an all-rounder. I've been in the construction industry, but I've done all different parts of the construction industry. So basically just saying that it's an improvement at the end of the day. You can't always look like you're 100%. Everything that I do is not to be negative. It's basically just to make sure that you're improving. No site is perfect. But the challenge was addressing that, and having someone try to get me to not lie on an inspection, but hold the truth. And I just explained that I've got the competencies to be able to make it a nice inspection, but tell it exactly how it is at the same time. And that had to be accepted. That had to be accepted. Stand your ground.
Well, thank you. And we got another question for you, Charlene. I know you touched on this in your slides, but for someone in a more desk-based role who isn't on site very often, what specific resources or training would you recommend to improve health and safety knowledge and demonstrate competence for CIWEM Chartership?
Okay. So you actually can relate your health and safety and your CDM experience to quite a lot of things. It's just getting the ball rolling. So if you're in a role and it's office based, health and safety is occupational. Okay, so CDM is construction and health and safety is occupational. So that's to do with your work environment. So anything from a DSE assessment, going around and doing a workplace inspection, you can get experience through that. You can join in on health and safety meetings. You can ask to be a part of your ISO health and safety. ISO 45001, if you've got that in your workplace, you will have a health and safety management system. So you can ask to have voluntary, as I said, inspections. It could be pat testing, it could be just a walk around the office. And then when it comes to online, anything to do with CPD, there's a lot of free webinars out there. The HSE has lots of resources. Just keeping up with your CPD actually would then help you relate it to your CIWEM Chartership. So your questions are based on the job that you're doing, and you would be able to relate them. But there's also mentors out there as well. I know that you're part of CIWEM, but we have the IOSH community as well. So that's all about you already got your degree, so part of your degree is health and safety. If you join IOSH, then you get the benefit of getting a mentor as well for your health and safety. So, and just ask questions. That's what everybody's in the same industry to help. But you're office based, you can get your occupational health and safety to pass your chartership.
That's brilliant. It's probably more relevant for me as well, so I'll take that away too.
You'll have a health and safety manager in your office, or someone that deals with health and safety. And if you don't, you can put yourself forward for it and do it as a voluntary role, and that will give you the experience. And then when it comes to anybody that's going out on site, you can ask, can I come along and do the site visits?
It's a good thing to try and get into, especially earlier on before you're kind of doing the writing and going, oh, I'm missing that.
Yeah. But there's a lot there. There's really no difference with the questions of health and safety chartership than there is with the engineered environmental chartership. The questions are similar. It's just relating it to the job that you do. So you know you're doing it. It's just, and a lot of the times the way that I work is I've done this 22 years. I've wrote health and safety policies. The first person if somebody had came up and said on the chat there, what is the standard way to write a health and safety policy, I would go blank. But if you were to talk to me about it, I'd be able to,
Yeah.
So starting that conversation, then you can get into the way. And if you're going through your chartership and you're starting your chartership journey, bounce the chat off someone, start the conversation, get to somebody who's maybe chartered already and say to them, I'm struggling with this one. How do I relate that? And they'll go, well, what is your job role? Right, here's how it relates. And then you start a conversation. Oh, I remember that. I did that in such and such, or, so yeah, you will be able to find it. You are already doing it. You just don't know you're doing it.
Brilliant. Thank you. Michelle, we've got 2 questions for you.
Okay.
The first one being, any advice being brave as a new mother and going for it with career changes or sideways moves?
Okay, for being a mum. So if you're already doing that part, the career part's a piece of, as they say. It's honestly, what I will say is you will learn much quicker how to compartmentalize your roles, and you'll learn how to be more efficient because you are toning in on a whole set of skills. But reaching out for support, looking for guidance and help where you can get it in your employment, with your peers and all that kind of stuff is also really important. But yeah, I always chose my job. I took my job as a break. And I know that sounds bad, but it's not what I mean. When you are doing the mummy thing, it's very busy. It's very, you are literally the person who's responsible for keeping these little people alive, for cleaning, for feeding, for doing everything that's involved in the house. And when you go into work, you get to be yourself again. Don't lose yourself. Don't ever lose yourself when you become a parent. That's for both sides of the table. Being a parent is a very, very, very big role and responsibility. But being yourself in your place of work, you'll have additional skills when you become a parent. And just go for it. Be confident. Going and having a baby as well, you sometimes have a knock on your confidence. Sometimes when you have had a bad time at work, you can see, careers stagnate or even drop down when people take a year off because they think they've come back to nothing. Some employment places are very good at bringing you back up to speed. Use your keeping in touch days. Keeping in touch days are essential. Get in there, get involved, and try and keep go for coffee with people, find out what's happening on the ground, things like that. That's all very essential for you getting involved. But you'll be fine. Trust me. If I can do it, anyone can do it.
Okay. And then last question, Michelle, can you have mentors in different branches / over the country? How would you go about networking or asking?
Yes, you can. So I know Conor McBratney has been recently chartered, and he mentioned his mentor. So basically, if you want to get a mentor, there was a way to do it via the CIWEM website. I'm not sure if it's still a bit live anymore, but historically there was. But if you reach out to us in the branch, we can look into that for you. Getting involved in our branch. If you want somebody within our branch to mentor you, that'll be no problem. But we all, since the pandemic, the digital is the way forward. Look, we're online on a webinar right now, and it allows me to talk to whoever needs to be talked to. Having a mentor that you can touch into at any time virtually is a really, really, really big resource that we should all be using. So definitely reach out to us, and we can get that sorted out for anybody who wants to get involved, mentored. There's loads of us. Our committee is full of wonderful people, and there's lots in the industry in general. Like Charlene, who've come on here and who come to all our different events and do presentations for us. I would have no bother getting anybody a mentor, I don't think, because I think, and it's just making sure we get the right fit for the person who's looking to mentor. So please reach out to us.
Brill. So that's us kind of out of time now, and I just want to thank both our speakers, Michelle and Charlene, so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. And then I've just got 1 or 2 wee slides here on upcoming events, if you would flick on there. So the upcoming events that we have for the Northern Ireland branch are an online webinar on biosolid management in January, and also the CIWEM quiz in January. So get your teams together for that. That's always a good bit of fun. And then the main CIWEM branch also has the Flood and Coast Conference in June, but the call for papers closes in January. So if you want to get a paper in, get going. And then there is also a flood ready event in February and a Rivers and Coastal Group Conference in March. And then just the last slide there, Michelle, is just... Can you flick on one more, Michelle?
I don't have the slides, it's Charlene. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Charlene. Just to finish out, there's a couple of links to CIWEM training, policies and publications. And then thank you all again for attending. Have a lovely festive Christmas period and hopefully see everyone in the new year.
Sorry about
Thank
that.
you. Sorry, Charlene. I thought it was
Thanks.
Michelle.
Sorry. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers. Thank yous.
Bye.
Bye.